Hi there! So it's been 6 months since I got this thing and I have some thoughts. I gotta say that it's been an amazing experience. I've used it almost every day since I got it, but it's been 6 months. I think I know the device pretty well and I know the in and outs, and of course there are always things that bother me. I think nothing is perfect, nothing can ever be perfect. There's always needs to be something that bothers you, even though it might not be a deal breaker. It is not for me, but you know, you're free to say. So in this video I'm gonna say 5 things I like and 5 things I don't like about Ableton Move. I have far more things that I like than I dislike, but in this list we are gonna do 5 and 5. So let's start. So in my opinion, the best thing that this thing has is the immediacy. It's so immediate. I just turned it on, right? And now I want to start a new set. Okay, so started. Now I want to move on to the drums. They are already loaded there for me. I might like them more, I might like them less, but they are already there, ready to be played. So I can just get started with whatever I have. And guess what? I don't even have to worry about metronome, worrying about sequencing, worrying about anything. I can just play whatever. It captures it and it calculates the tempo. So how awesome is that? Is the definition of immediacy. I think there's nothing as immediate as this thing. And I actually can tell sort of how it works by having used Ableton Note so much, because you can see that it's tracking the notes that you input, the automation that you do, and it's all the time is tracking whatever the user is doing. So that is why you can be so immediate with it, and it is far my favorite feature, the immediacy, and the Ableton team has made an awesome job with that. The second thing that I like a lot is that it is very straightforward. Like it's very easy to find your way around here. You have the shift. When you press shift, the secondary functions light up. This is a sequencer. These are the different pitches in drum tracks. Everything makes sense here. Of course, you need to learn a couple of things, but devices like the OP one, at least to me, have a steeper learning curve. And this one is like very easy to just get going. And that is of course always appreciated. And of course, if you buy it new, it's a lot of time that you save into sort of learning the device. Something I also like is that it is very self-contained. You don't really need anything outside of the box. You don't really have to synchronize if you want to get synth sounds. The synthesizers that are on board are pretty amazing, and they are of course the same ones as in Ableton. Maybe you don't get as many editing features that you might have in the full version of the synthesizer, but it is still a very complete package. You have sampling, you have sequencing, you have synthesizers, and it is also nice that you can hook it up to other devices and they can talk over MIDI, and you can even send audio from your phone. So you know, it is very self-contained and you don't really need a lot of peripherals to get started. And I like, of course, groove boxes, but when I see these setups with a bunch of Electron gear, like a bunch of Digitacs, Digitones, Analog 4, all of them talking by MIDI, I think how many cables you need there, how many power adapters you need there, how do you even start recording all of that. So I like devices that are sort of self-contained to take me away from the computer, but I don't like those that are, I mean, I of course like them, but I don't have the energy to use these very incomplete devices that are made to talk to each other. So in this one I have the drums, in this one I have the synths, in this one I have the bass. I just prefer something that can do everything to take me away from the computer, but when I'm going to do the real music, I just go to the computer and I have no problem with that. But I like that it's self-contained. Another thing I like is that you don't get death by choice. That is something I like and I dislike, because sometimes it feels like it's a little bit incomplete and that you need more features. but at the same time it keeps it very lean, and it doesn't have too many features that get in the way of your creation ideas. So for example, you only get 4 tracks. Do you need more tracks? No, you really don't, especially if you're gonna be working in a device like this. I think the idea of Ableton is, okay, let's give the users 4 tracks, they get started, they can get started with the ideas maybe to a 40-50%, and once they're ready, then they can just export whatever they are doing with Ableton. And you know, it is actually very well thought out, and it is the way I use it, but I understand that some people might not use Ableton, or some people might prefer having a more complete device that they can get closer to a finished track. I'm not one of those people, but I sort of like that it only has like not so many tracks, not so many presets, not so many editing options for the synthesizers, not so many secondary functions for the knobs for each one of these buttons, secondary function. I think it's nice that the thing is straightforward and that you can just, you know, get going very easily. And the last thing of the positive is the integration with Ableton, and it's very related to the other one, because as we discussed, the idea of Ableton is that you have 4 tracks. You get it started and then you move over to Ableton. And that step is very easy. You can connect it via USB, or you can use Ableton Link or Ableton Cloud, and that works seamlessly. There is no problem with that. I've used it all the time. The only thing that I will wish is that when you export one of the sets from Ableton Move over to Ableton, it doesn't respect your template. And I have a template for my tracks that I like to get started with. It adds a new template which doesn't have anything, so it would be nice that Ableton could integrate default sets that users might have, but that is not a big deal. I like that it's so well connected. Now let's move on to the negatives. One of the things I don't really like is the sampling workflow. The idea of Ableton, I think, is you have a pad, you press here, and then you can sample via lining. So I could sample, for example, my OP1. So the idea is that you sample, from here, but now if I want to, for example, chop, I really can't do that. I need to like copy this one, paste it here, and then I change the start point. And it's very tedious. It doesn't have like a lazy chop. Something that is nice within sampling is that you can pitch up your sample here. You can play it like if you just sample, for example, you can't play polyphonically. It's only one note at a time, but it is a nice thing to have. But I overall don't love the sampling workflow. I would love that there is some sort of lazy chop feature, and there is also some kind of hands-free sampling, because if you start sampling, say this, and I want to stop it, then I need to use my hands. But if I want to sample myself playing the guitar, it's a little bit more tedious. I need to do something like, first I go into microphone, and for that you need to disconnect this one. You need to disconnect the line in. Then I go into microphone, and then I press it, and now it's recording. When I want to stop it, I need to press that. It's a little bit difficult to be accurate. You can use Shift and this one, you become more accurate, that's fine. You can edit the start point, but not really the end point, and that's something I don't really like, and you need to edit that by editing the holds. So if you hold, like, say 1 second, it will only play 1 second, but it would be just better to be able to chop the sample, the end point and the start point. But here it's just a start point. Still not a deal breaker, but it is not the best sampler there is. But you know, it's 100% usable if you just want to sample something like an arpeggio or something. It's good for one shots, but it's not very good if you want to really work and edit and mangle the samples. Then the number of tracks. I know I said this one as an advantage, but I see that sometimes it's a disadvantage. Sometimes I have ideas that require more than 4 tracks, and of course you can do a little bit of cheating and resampling one track in another pad and all that. But sometimes I feel like that it will be so easy to just press shift and then go to a new set of tracks, and maybe you can get 8 tracks, that I feel like, okay, that shouldn't be too difficult. But at the same time, it's nice that it only has 4 and it makes you be sort of intentional with the elements you add. This one is for you. Just let me know down in the comments if you would prefer that there is more tracks. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, there should be more tracks, definitely. And sometimes I feel like, yeah, this is fine as it is. So let's go to the third thing that I don't love about it, and it is the USB port situation. See, there are 2 USB, one USB-A and one USB-C. In the USB-A, you can send MIDI out, and you can get MIDI in. And in the USB-C, is where you charge it and where you get audio. Now, I have several questions with that. Why not both of them are USB-C? Nowadays everything is USB-C. Like my phone is USB-C, my charger is USB-C, my MacBook is USB-C, my MIDI controller is USB-C, like at least some of them. So I feel like, why, you know, if you want to have 2 different ports, like one for audio, one for MIDI, one for charge, so be it. I mean, I think it can be even convenient in some situations, but why not both of them the same? And also I feel like having 2 different ports for different things. I mean, the OP1 has only 1 port, this USB-C, and that one sends audio, sends MIDI, charges, and I don't know, I just think it's not necessary to have several because it can be confusing sometimes. Still not a deal breaker, not too negative, but it feels like a bit of a weird decision from Ableton, but it is fine, I guess. And then the last one, this one is very personal. Of course, not even close to be a deal breaker, but I need to make up 5 negative things to finish the video. But one thing I always think about this is that I wish it was just a little bit smaller. I wish it had like a similar form factor to the OP1. Just a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit smaller in all directions. I feel like it could be a little bit more compact, but it is what it is, so it is totally fine. But I think sometimes that it would be nice that it's a bit smaller to be more portable, fits better, the backpack and all that. Those are my 5 positive and my 5 negative things about Ableton Move. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel because I put new videos every single Friday. And yeah, that's it. I hope it was useful to you, and see you in the next one. Bye.